Good morning, good morning. It is Tuesday morning, and on Tuesday morning, you usually join me either live on a replay for your morning cup of coffee and your leadership nuggets. And so that's what we have this morning. Having technical difficulties on one other platform that I'm trying to load up, but we are not going to delay our morning. So, good morning to you. Thank you for joining me for a cup of coffee. And before making any decision in your day, that you are joining me to have a cup of coffee or tea so that we can kind of chat and navigate through your leadership challenges. Of course, always using the GPS to navigate. And the GPS for my space and in my scope stands for kind of like the navigation that you're familiar with, but is an abbreviation for getting clarity on your goals, being able to position and plan the direction on how you're going to implement those goals with a successful strategy with a different level of awareness that improves your ability to kind of level up in your career. And so as we get to dive into this morning, good morning, good morning. Um, we are here and it's Tuesday morning. So every Tuesday morning we come and we have a conversation. As I am a leadership strategist with a clinical background, and I work to help you and others who are in corporate America feeling what passed over and overlooked to being well paid and promoted in your career and being able to next level. So engagement is 100% welcome. And our focus nugget for this morning, before you will have space to ask any questions or anything that comes or strikes to your mind. Feel free to throw that in the chat because engagement is definitely welcome. Good morning. Good morning. Our focus nugget this morning is: are you stuck in your leadership pivots, comfortable but frustrated? So, are you in your leadership role and you're trying to make pivots or changes and shifts that's going to help you elevate and level up? However, you find that you are comfortable but frustrated. And it's like, how can I be comfortable and frustrated at the same time? We do it all the time in life, so much so that it becomes the pattern that needs to be interrupted or disrupted in a sense. And so when you pattern interrupt, it usually takes having a different framework, making a 2 millimeter shift, like a 2 millimeter shift of where you are, how it is you approach a challenge, how it is that you see yourself functioning and doing things differently. So if you're stuck, the most important thing in identifying that you're possibly stuck is looking at, as a leader, what are some of the patterns that have you where you are comfortable. You may become frustrated. You may have these moments where you flare up and say, okay, I need to do something different, but you find that you end up falling back into what is comfortable. So last Tuesday we talked about like over functioning, and when you take it on too much responsibility or be playing like team too much, but not taking control over the scope of things that you have like manifested or like kind of looked at how it is that you're over functioning and not allowing your team to kind of elevate the way that they need to elevate to support you as the leader, as well as building up other leaders around the team so that the capacity and bandwidth that you deal with on a day-to-day basis doesn't necessarily have to be always the weight on you. So thinking about the weight not necessarily being on you, how is it that you are feeling stuck, but comfortable and frustrated? So if you want to, begin some interaction, what are some of the ways that you feel stuck? Go ahead and drop that in the comments. What is it that you think about in your day-to-day patterns, certain meetings that you go to, things that tend to challenge you, and you're like, okay, I'm stuck, or they didn't hear me. Am I invisible? Am I like what? Why is it when someone else said the same exact thing that it's more responded to than it was when I shared it? And you have to begin to look at what is the pattern? What are the things in the way that you present it? How is it that you may be positioning yourself to be the resource and the catalyst, but not the resource with the resolution? So the resource with the catalyst, but not necessarily the resource with the resolution. Good morning. Good morning. So in thinking about how it is that you may get stuck some of the same um some of the same challenges of, I don't want to deal with technology, or I don't want, I'm comfortable with the supervisor that I have. I've heard things about the manager that I will have should I get promoted, so I'm going to just stay here. The idea that changing what the pattern is that you have done for so long, it's comfortable, but is it yielding that ability for you to really, really level up? And when you fear change, you allow that fear of whatever it is that you would need to change to really have control over captivating and creating your idea that there is a glass ceiling. So, what if I told you that there was no glass ceiling? Like, there's never ever really a glass ceiling unless you are perceiving that you are only capable of doing what you're doing now, yet you're frustrated every step of the way. So if you're frustrated every step of the way and having challenges kind of making whatever that pattern interruption is, you have to look at yourself, hold yourself accountable, but looking at the agency in which your pivot has challenges. And when you look at where your pivot has challenges, are you looking at what pivot really means? And I didn't really want to use the word pivot since that word has become so popular in these recent days, since we've been in this abbreviated world where some people are half hybrid, some people are going back into the office, but it fits this conversation. Your pivot, your level up, your invisible glass ceiling, because it doesn't really exist, is about how you change the perspective on your role in the conversation. But sometimes positioning yourself in those different conversations and in those different interactions, you have to begin to not allow the feedback from those who do not have the agency when I say agency, I mean the permission, the status, the vision that you have for where you want to see yourself leveling up. Everybody doesn't see the same thing that you see, because the conference table that you were at with the creator, when it was poured into your cup for you to be this next level leader, was only between you and the creator, or only between you and your envisioning of seeing yourself at this next level. The other thing is, sometimes when we have to level up, the level up occurs where it's not necessarily where we are today. Meaning, you're frustrated because you take stuff to the managers, you take stuff to the leaders that oversee the work that you do. They tell you that you're doing a good job or that you're on target and you're in alignment with their mission. However, they seem to contain you. And so the thing is that we have to look at the gift of every situation. Remember, every conversation is a gift, and acknowledge that your level up experience may be where you sit today is preparing you for where you'll sit tomorrow. So that positioning on how it is that you level up in your career comes from different steps of investment, different steps of being open to criticism, different steps and levels of recognizing how it is that you need to shift. And when you think about how you need to shift, you're pouring into your cup every step of the way, but you're recognizing that a part of your pivot may not be at the address and with the team that you're currently preparing yourself with, the team that you're with now is probably the team that is put into your GPS navigation in your career so that you can learn more about yourself, learn about yourself as a leader, so that as you begin to get the shift and the change perspective, the strategy that you need, those other opportunities that are awaiting you will definitely be on the other side of those conversations and on the other side of those experiences. So when we usually get frustrated is when we're realizing that the strategy that we have in place is not really activating where it is that we want to see ourselves go. And when it's not activating where it is that we want to see ourselves grow, in that beyond that invisible glass ceiling that does not exist, the opportunities that are available to you ends up opening more doors. So the team that you're comfortable with, the team that you know the processes where you are, when you begin to live your greatest life and live the life that you desire and deserve, it's going to create an uncomfortable experience. And the only way that you grow is in uncomfortable experiences. When you acknowledge that you're comfortable is when the pivot needs to be reassessed, and when the pivot should honor your voice, or you should honor recognizing that, okay, I'm a little comfortable, and yes, I have been frustrated. I've probably even cussed a little at a couple of these situations. I've called my girlfriends, my boys. I've talked to people about how it is that I feel limited in this position, but it's like a microwave moment. You're only upset in that moment or in that season. And that season could be a couple days, it could be a week, it could be a whole quarter. We're coming to the end of the second quarter of the year. But if you only stay comfortable, then you will definitely not be able to experience the opportunity of growth that's waiting for you on the other side. So you got to get comfortable, definitely, Marcus. You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And as much as that sounds like opposite of what it is that we've been, told that we're supposed to do, we're supposed to stay at a place for a certain amount of years, supposed to get a 401k, we're supposed to do all of these different things. You are out of alignment when you are remaining comfortable for the things that you find as benefits, because those benefits become the distractors or the things that you would best be served by interrupting the pattern that has gotten you to this level of experience that you're at so far. So if you have feared change, if you fear promoting something different or being promoted, the strategy that you would benefit from is activating how it is that you can do a 2 millimeter shift, change the framework and how you see and experience stuff, and also recognizing that activation in practice comes from surviving that aspect of where it is that you would benefit from being a different person and showing up for yourself, where you're playing at your ambition and much, much higher. So when you realize that there's a comfort level there, the comfortability is the awareness, but the driver or the trigger is what makes you frustrated. And how much energy are you losing and being frustrated over something that you may feel like you can't change, or you feel like you have no influence or no impact or something to that degree? However, the frustrated is the trigger that's letting you know that it's time to make that 2 millimeter shift, that it's time to activate getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, or that change is not something to fear, but change is letting you know, like, it's in your gut, it's in your heart, it's in your everyday. When that alarm goes off and you like, do I really have to do this today? Am I really prepared for what the bandwidth is for what is my calling or my responsibility or my task is in that day? And again, the glass ceiling only exists to where you place your limits, where you place the limits, not where somebody else placed the limits. Don't give the power of your ability to level up into somebody else's hands. Yes, there's a process. Yes, there's office politics. Yes, there's all of those different things. However, when you need to be repositioned, it takes investing in knowing how it is that you can recognize the awareness. Okay, I'm not comfortable here. I can do this job probably rolling over it with my eyes closed. However, if you're triggered and frustrated and spending so much time on the phone with family, friends, colleagues, complaining and feeling triggered, then it's time to check yourself out. Take a moment to kind of reset that table and acknowledge that your GPS is off tour. Your GPS, your goals are not clear. You're not positioning and planning yourself in the right way. And the strategy in which you have implemented may need some additional support. And so it leads me to like thinking about a question that somebody just recently asked me. They asked me, how much have I invested in my shift? And when that they asked me that question, I realized that there were several times throughout my career where I was comfortable, where I was believing the things that were told to me on my level up was going to be fact and true. However, every time I was triggered with a level of frustration of trying to level up, I realized that I was giving influence, power, and impact to individuals who did not have the conversation at the conference table that I had in the vision that I had in seeing my life moving forward. So, in seeing my life moving forward, I knew I had to do something. And in the process of the question that someone recently asked me, it caused me to understanding my own internal gifts, my own internal abilities to not overfunction, but that the gifts that I have were very, very unique. The opportunities that I had were very, very unique. It didn't look like the rest of the world and the rest of everybody else that's in the field of working with me. That what was the gift was a little bit different, and I had to make several 2 millimeter shifts. When I did that is how I came up with my own personalized GPS that I often encourage you to, to check out for yourself, that you begin to look at the perspective of what is frustrating you, what is triggering you, and how much time is consumed in that investment of really doing nothing. Because when you're calling other people and you're rehearsing and thinking about what is not working, you're putting yourself back into the pattern that we discussed last week of overfunctioning to try to fix something and rescue situations versus having a perspective of, okay, how is it that I need to shift and pivot? How it is that I activate my leveling up experience, activate what it is that I'm surviving from, activate the residue from previous situations, and how much influence it is that I'm allowing for others to have the voice and what I know that my capability is. And so sometimes we say, well, I really want to stay at XYZ place because of my pension or because of the benefits, or I like my teamwork, my team that I'm working with. But sometimes the ability to stay in contact with certain people is blocking your own ability to be able to level up effectively, to live the life that you desire with passion, with harmony, with balance, because you're constantly in a struggle with what your assignment is and how you're out of alignment. And as long as you're out of alignment for how it is that you're supposed to exist in your role of leadership, then you're always going to feel frustrated, uncomfortable, be triggered, and feeling as if the glass ceiling is caving in on you more and more and more. And so go into the comments for, a moment. Um, Someone said, and that means also working on your confidence. Definitely. You have to work on your confidence. Not being able to have confidence and know your worth can really hold a person back from all things that you want in life. And so, a thing about the confidence that we allow to kind of position ourselves, that position is something that somebody assigned to us. And our experiences have assigned to us, because life is not always easy. We don't get these scars and develop and becoming the leader and the voice and the advocate that we have in activation and practice by any passive enjoyable experience. It usually comes with scars. So because those scars do not feel comfortable, when we get to a place that we feel that they have been resolved or don't exist, or we're just going to tuck them in a suitcase and they're not going to matter, they end up mattering because if we haven't felt confident in the previous scar or previous situation that we survived from, then we're going to assume, because it's human nature, we're going to assume that everybody else that is in this leadership responsibility or this role that I'm involved in is going to do the same thing. So then you end up recreating and actually developing your own glass ceiling. And so when you're frustrated and talking about what it is that's not happening for you or the doors that you feel are closing, one, you may be limiting yourself by thinking about it only occurring at that particular address. And then the other part is when you're saying that a person is holding you back or a situation is holding you back, you have given total autonomy, total permission for somebody else to tell you what your natural gift is or where you're supposed to excel and be beautiful at. So if the change is difficult, you have to really look at how do you orchestrate driving in your GPS and not accepting that the detours of change have a purpose that's going to give you the value that's going to be so much better for you on the other side. But what are those things that you are surviving? What are those confidence questions? What are those fear of change? What are those things that are creating the frustration that you are self-imposing limits, and you're triggered by them every single time that they come? And by being triggered by them, you are creating the pattern that needs to be interrupted so that you can level up. So if the pattern is like has such a stronghold on you or has such a big challenge for you to kind of interrupt that, you're over functioning to maintain this level of being frustrated and being overlooked and not being well paid. And so you have to make a decision for yourself. How is it that you choose to sacrifice, recognize that you're surviving, be attentive to like what it is that you need to do effectively? Because the sacrifice needs to be a mutual conversation if you have family members that are supporting you so that they can understand the shift that's necessary for you to get to the next level. But the conversation really is you making that decision for you and you activating what needs to happen. And sometimes that requires having someone side by side or someone who is able to see the vision that you're unable to see and helping you in that side by side, working through what the blocks are, because there's always blind spots and blocks when you're doing something that you've never done, because fear already knows how it can stop you. Fear has been successful in pausing you in so many different ways. So when you think about your grit, we talked about grit a couple weeks ago in leadership. When you think about your grit, your stick to itness, your ability to say, I deserve this and I'm going to make this happen, you have to be very clear on what sacrifices are you also willing to step into so that you can step over and elevate yourself in a much higher level. So when you think about the fear of rejection, they're not really rejecting you. They are thinking that the fear of rejection is your perception of them not being able to understand your voice. And if they're probably intimidated when there's a fear of it, when you have a fear of rejection, you're taking on somebody else's insecurity. Your fear of rejection is that no, it's not comfortable and you don't like it, but you're taking on somebody else's insecurity of the strength that they see in the power of your voice, the strength that they see in the capabilities. They see how you navigate with your people person skills, your ability to, kind of draw people together, your ability to have a task, see it all the way through, and your follow-up plan is efficient. They actually admire you to a certain degree. But if they can make you feel insufficient in some particular way, then again, they're able to make you feel like you're being rejected, or to make you feel like your sacrifice is not warranted, or whatever it is that they have the most influence on. You begin to take on a narrative that's not even yours to take. It's somebody else putting in that glass ceiling that, again, I'm telling you, does not exist. It doesn't exist when you begin to put yourself and position yourself in the ways in which that's going to navigate you being able to successfully level up. So when you are ready to successfully level up, I came across this quote that I thought was really on point as I was preparing for today, which was, I am no longer accepting the things that I can't change, and I am changing the things that I can't accept, from our girl Angela Davis. So Angela Davis puts it here quite clear, quite concise, quite efficient. The things that you cannot change don't have to be the things that limit you. The things that you cannot change can be learning opportunities that you open yourself up to, because not only will you grow from making that shift, making that pivot, the people around you will also grow. But being prepared that that growth does not mean that they're going to also walk side by side with you. That growth may mean that they are going to fall off, or they're not going to no longer be in alignment with your conversation moving forward. So when you are surviving and you making that sacrifice, everything and everyone is unable to go with you. And being comfortable in that, you understand that you are no longer responsible for the things that you can't change. You can't change the people around you, but you don't need those people to suffocate you in the ways that you are intended to grow and in the ways that you are intended to lead. So, in thinking about how it is that you are positioning yourself and desire leading from the front with your unique footprint, you have the solutions, but you need some support with navigating like what that actually looks like. And so in needing that support, it really just takes honest inventory, which is something you've heard me say before. Taking that honest inventory and being open to the criticism that will come, but knowing that the criticism is not to hurt your feelings, is not to set up a rejection, is not to set up saying that you were not capable. It's set up so that you can understand, okay, I got to step out on grace. I got to step out on faith. I got to step out with intentions that are going to activate how it is that I could lead from the front with my unique footprint and create my voice in advocacy, activating as a CEO in my life, activating what it is that I have survived, or if someone has told me I wasn't confident, or someone has said certain things that didn't align with me, how can I activate that I need to activate moving forward? And yes, definitely being open to all levels. And when you're open to all levels, you can't be comfortable. When you're open to all levels, criticism is going to come in a lot of different ways. Don't ruminate, like don't rehearse it. Don't sit in it and call all your friends and have all of these meetings and beat yourself up internally with your voice internally and say, I must not be worthy. I must not be at quality level to level up. Remember, everybody that you believe is your advocate is not necessarily your advocate. And also remember that they weren't at the table to kind of help you when you created the plan and you're trying to get clarity. The thing is that we have goals all the time. Most of us breathing on schedule in this conversation, outside of this conversation, and even on the replay, have specific goals that we want to gain or things that we want to achieve. The challenge is that our goals are not clear. We think that they're clear, but sometimes we have not engineered the steps with those 2 millimeter shifts that's going to help make it clear. And so with that being said, as you know, I am the leadership strategist. The free consultation that I offer, that is going at the bottom of the screen where you can jump on my calendar for us to have that conversation, is that we talk about, we dive into, where is it that this rejection is playing a part. You're not wanting to be uncomfortable to get comfortable or to level up, where you believe that this glass ceiling actually exists, where you live in a space of frustration at least a couple times a month in your workplace. You would begin to come through at least with a clearer GPS, that clarity and the positioning, and then you could determine how it is that you want to strategize your leveling up so that you can now grow from being passed over to promoted and well paid in all aspects of your life. And may not necessarily always be showing up in your career, but it's going to show up in your career as well as in other aspects of your life as well. So I encourage you to, take that time, see what's available, take that investment in yourself. Because remember, one of the things is, when you invest in yourself, the investment limitations are only set by your fear, are only set by to your ability to be open to the criticism, be open to your experience, be open to what you have learned, but definitely what you have survived from. So like thinking, and when I say survive from, that could be all types of life experiences. But earlier in the comments, someone said not having the confidence, that came from an experience, that came from something that you don't necessarily have full control over, but you do have control over how you react, how you activate, how you move forward. So allowing yourself to have your personal advocacy, and allowing yourself to know that you deserve better. So someone said, I have natural hair, so I'm ready to do a deep dive. Listen, deep dive with a condition to get the conditioner and everything else that you need is definitely, always, nice to cleanse, nice to reset, nice to refresh even your perspective. And should you choose, because it's possible, now I mentioned that you have to realize that being at your current address may not be the future address, but being at your current address could also prepare you for your next steps. So I want to open it up for, we have had some engagement, which I love. I love the feedback and the conversation, but I just want to give you space to ask any additional questions or thoughts that you may have in regards to this conversation. Thank you for joining us live on a Tuesday morning with your cup of coffee or tea. And before you making any decision in facilitating your day, joining us each and every Tuesday so that we can pour into your cup, but then offer you opportunities to get unstuck. So the goal is that you get unstuck, that you don't, that you don't stay stuck in your frustration, and that you're able to level up at ease to the life that you deserve and desire, that not only has been promised to you, but that you 100% deserve. And the only way that you can activate what it is that you deserve is not putting yourself in limits, not framing everything in the capacity where you're frozen, you're, not getting the reach that you want. And so, I just encourage you to, just think about it. Think about how life could be different if you were actually driving your own personal GPS and your own personal leadership navigation, and staying in alignment without getting comfortable, and realizing that when you're frustrated, when you're calling up everybody, that's the trigger, that something needs to be done differently, with the reflection of how you see yourself in the mirror, with the reflection of recognizing, what did I do and what patterns do I need to interrupt. Interrupting those patterns is where the most help is actually needed. Once we interrupt those, identify what it is, you will have unapologetically growing up growing up in your leadership and being ultimately successful. So Definitely, if you catching us on the replay, do hashtag replay, share your nuggets, share your questions. I will come back and show some love, and give you some feedback. And again, my calendar is open. So if you would like to have that one-on-one conversation, let's do it. Like, let's do it. There's no other way but to do it. So it looks like there's no other no questions that are coming up. And we have gone a little bit over the 30-minute window that I try, but we were getting into a groove and you guys were engaging. So I appreciate that. But I'm going to take it that there's no other questions. I'm going to have some more coffee and have a great and successful day. Until the next time, which is definitely next Tuesday, but possibly some nuggets throughout the week. I look forward to chatting with you on your level up experience. Take care.